extremely advanced technologically, which suggests, very rightfully so, that they're peaceful. I suspect they have more to fear from us than we from them.
Ladies and gentlemen,
the Martian ambassador is going to say a few words.
Come on down, Mr. Ambassador.
Whoa.
That's a Martian? Ew, that's gross.
My God. Yikes.
Hey, we all make mistakes, Mr. President.
This could be a cultural misunderstanding.
Mr. President, they have our planet surrounded with thousands of warships.
What do you think, Marcia?
Kick the crud out of them.
Mr. President, we're going to need you to safety.
Should we go this way?
Sorry, ma'am. There's a tour going through here.
Jack Nicholson.
This is the President of the United States. I want the people to know that they still have 2 out of 3 branches of the government working for them, and that ain't bad.
Glenn Close as the First Lady.
I'm not gonna have that thing in my house.
Annette Bening.
People say they're ugly, but I think they've come to show us the way.
Pierce Brosnan.
Very curious.
Danny DeVito. Martin Short. Sarah Jessica Parker. Michael J. Fox. Ron Steiger.
Annihilate! Kill! Kill!
Jim Brown. Lucas Haas.
You made the international sign of the donut.
Jack Nicholson.
Whoa! Hey! You're Tom Jones, right?
And yes, Tom Jones.
It's not unusual to be loved by anyone.
Mars Attacks.
Why can't we all just get along?
Bubonic plague spread across Asia and Europe in the 1300s and killed almost half of the population. The disease was carried in the blood of rats and was transferred to humans by fleas which had fed off the rats' blood. The first outbreak subsided with a few localized outbreaks in Tudor times, but it re-emerged in 1665. London was badly affected and more than 20% of the population, 100,000 people, died. Symptoms of the plague included fever, red swellings around the neck, armpits and groin, vomiting blood, delirium and headaches. Death could occur within 24 hours. At the time, little was known about the cause of the disease, and doctors thought that bad smells and poor air quality were responsible. People were encouraged to carry posies of sweet-smelling flowers to protect themselves. The children's nursery rhyme, Ring a Ring of Roses, refers to the red rashes on the bodies of plague victims. The residents of the central English village of Eyam in Derbyshire showed unusual bravery, selfishness and altruism when the plague struck there, by self-isolating to protect neighbouring villages and towns, at the cost to them of 260 lives, which was a third of the population of the village. In September 1665, George Vickers, the village tailor, took delivery of some cloth from London. It was damp, and he shook it and hung it in front of the fire to dry. This released fleas which were living in the cloth. Vickers lodged with the Cooper family in a small cottage, and within a few days he had died from a strange fever. Within 2 weeks, one of Mrs. Cooper's sons had also died. There were a further 31 deaths that year, but the outbreak declined because of the cold weather as the fleas went into hibernation. However, in the summer of 1666, the disease came back with a vengeance, with 134 deaths in July and August alone. The new rector, William Montpesson, and his well-respected predecessor, Thomas Stanley, who still lived in the village, met to see what they could do to stop the plague from spreading. They persuaded the villagers to quarantine themselves in order to protect the neighbouring villages and towns. They all agreed not to leave the area, and outsiders were banned. Food was left in the boundary stone by neighbouring villagers and paid for with coins left within holes drilled in the stone. The coins were soaked in vinegar, which was thought to disinfect them. There were many sad and tragic incidents. Elizabeth Hancock and her family were tenants at Riley's farm on the edge of the village. In the space of 8 days in August 1666, she lost her husband and 6 children. She dragged the dead bodies of her family along the lanes outside the village and buried them herself in graves in a field. She survived and went to live with another son in Sheffield. William Maupassant's wife Catherine nursed the sick, but eventually succumbed herself and died also in August 1666. She is buried in the churchyard. After nearly 6 months of self-isolation, the death rate dropped. By spring 1667, Eyam was declared plague-free. The sacrifices of families such as the Thorpes, the Hancocks and the Hawksworths had prevented the spread to larger towns of Manchester and Sheffield. And that's all for now.
So thank you, Paul and Joe. Now our guest this week is, as David mentioned, he created a website called Viewmaster Travels. You're going to love this. And it's compiled a database of Viewmaster reels. That's the least of what he's done. But welcome, Dave. Can you come? Yeah, good, great.
Yeah, hi. So let me give you a little background about me. I was into computers a lot as a kid, so I have a background in computers. But when I went to university, that was for film and television production. And after graduating, I started several .com companies for several years, selling some of those, and got into collecting Viewmasters a little bit before COVID with a set that I picked up from an antique shop with about 40, 50 reels in it, and found it really, really fascinating. And that was the first time I think I'd realized that Viewmaster made travel reels, like historic documents of places that maybe you could have visited, and that they dated so far back to the 40s and the 50s. I think as a kid, I'd seen cartoons and Tom and Jerry and whatnot on Viewmaster, but never these travel reels, and found them really interesting. So decided to, as a COVID project, to make a Viewmaster database. I was buying large lots of Viewmaster reels off of eBay and entering them into a database online, including typing in all the descriptions of all the images, which was a lot of work. And then as lockdown kind of continued, I decided to digitize all the images themselves. So every reel has 7 3D images on it. And I came up with a way with my SLR camera pointing into a Viewmaster projector to photograph the frames in 2D though, but not in 3D. So I could quickly, advance through the reel on the projector and take the pictures with a remote shutter release and load them all into the database. And then I wrote a HTML website front end to the database so that you could search it online, and hosted it online so anybody can access it now. And in that database, there's about 2,000 reels, 2,200 reels, and with all the duplicate alternate images that are in, there's 16,000 pictures that I took, all loaded in. And I added some games on there that you can play, and you can guess where the Viewmaster pictures are or which reels they're from, and so on. So that was really kind of a neat project for me to do, and I still add to it as I collect more reels. But then kind of after lockdown ended, and I sort of retired from the software industry, we took a trip to Catalina Island off the coast of California to see the flying fish that are there. And on the ferry ride over, I realized I had a ViewMaster reel of Catalina Island, and we looked it up on the database on the way over, and had the idea to kind of go find the locations from the images that are on the reel. So once we got there, we spent the weekend hunting down these 7 different places. Did you want to share some of the pictures that you had? So here's an example of the database itself. So it's kind of small to see, but every reel is listed with all the images that are on them and the descriptions of those images. So if you go onto the website, you can search them and find everything related to, say, the New York's World Fair or whatever. And if you go to the next slide, here's what you get when you do that. So this is the New York's World Fair, and every image from the reel is loaded in 2D. And it makes a great reference when you're out and about, like what these places looked like back when the images were taken in the 40s or the 50s or the 60s. So you can see, or if you're collecting reels, you can look to see if you already have them or if there's different images on there. On the next slide,
question.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It's a quick question. What series of reels did you find to be the easiest to scan? In other words, with you didn't have to do a lot of touch up. Are there any groups of them that were actually easier than others?
Yeah, no, as far as easiest to scan, the unopened reels that haven't shifted to magenta, which happens to certain film stocks, but the older reels that are unopened, they tend to be in really, really good condition. It's really surprising. So if you're lucky to get some unopened reels or ones that have never really been viewed, they're very clean and scan really easily. I'm just taking the SLR camera. I took the ViewMaster projector and took off the lens on the front, and I'm just really pointing the camera into the projector directly with some lens adaptation on the camera so that it can focus that closely. And if the image is clean, it comes out reasonably well, and I don't have to do a whole lot of cleanup on it. I think in the database that I have, I didn't clean the reels up too much because I kind of wanted a reference to what my reels looked like, so that if it was kind of scratched or damaged, I knew, I would know to maybe replace it. So I'm always on the lookout for better reels and stuff. But I am really surprised with that old Kodak film, like how high quality these images are for being 70 years old or so. Some of them are really pristine if you're lucky.
Now this brochure. Let's go back.
Yeah, so this was our trip to Catalina Island, and I needed a reference for where these images on the reel were. So this brochure is from 1948, and this came from eBay, and the ViewMaster pictures were taken in the late 40s. And we were traveling there in 2021 or 2022, whenever you were allowed to travel again. And we had actually gone there to see the flying fish, which I'd always wanted to do. And this was sort of a side project. So this brochure was my reference, but the good thing was it was of the time. So the locations on the map match what the ViewMaster photographer would have seen. And what has become a theme of this is really retracing the steps of the photographers that shot these reels for the Sawyer's Company in the 40s. And following the places they went and following your nose as to where they chose to go and so on. So that's what this brochure is. It's what we use as a guide. So this is the first ViewMaster picture. Catalina Island it's a large island with one small town on it with a harbor and a valley, and that's it. And really today the rest of the island is restricted and preserved. But on the east side of the bay, this is the view, and there's the tower on the right is what they call the chimes tower, and every hour it plays chimes that you can hear throughout the view. And you can see in the center the steamer ship coming in to the harbor, which is how people from LA came across to the island on the steamer. And if you go to the next one, we found that same location. On Catalina, you can't have a car, but you rent a golf cart, and we drove all around the island up the hill, and this is the same view. And the chimes tower on the right is still there and still playing the chimes. It was repaired in the 80s or the 90s to work again. So every hour you hear the chimes, and we recorded that. And then, but if you notice, and really what got me really interested in this is that the steamer's obviously not there, and the pier that it was on is gone. So here you can see two piers with a steamer, and on the modern picture, there's only one. And this is where I kind of realized that the Viewmasters were a glimpse into history, and things have obviously changed. And I got really curious as to what it was. At the time, I didn't really know the answer to that, but that got my sort of curiosity going. So you want to move to the next one. So this is the view of the same harbor from the other side, and you can see two piers in the picture, and the house there with the conical roof is in that picture. And then if you switch to the modern one, so we found that same location way up the hill. You can actually see the Chimes Tower on the opposite hill. That's where we just were. And then we've ridden the golf cart around through Avalon and up the hill the other side. There's the house with the conical roof, and now there's only one pier. But you can kind of see a little more where the second pier used to be. And there's at the very end of a pier there. And that's kind of where the pier was, and now it isn't. And but the house, I think it's called Holly House, is still there and almost unchanged except for the pool was added. And I think it's a B&B now that you can go to. So I started making notes of all these differences, and what we found was really interesting historically as we traveled around. So this one is labeled a glass bottom boat coming into port, and they gave glass bottom boat rides. The water around Catalina is really, really clear, and it's super popular for scuba diving, and they've been giving glass bottom boat rides there since the 30s. And this was the glass bottom boat coming in, and here's the modern glass bottom boat today. And we took the same ride, and I took pictures, through the glass and of the ride and video and so on. So all this time later, they're still doing this. And this boat that we're looking at here is from the 50s. So it's almost as old as the Viewmaster picture was. Although that one is a different glass bottom boat. But so we took those rides and had the same experience that probably the Viewmaster guy did on his trip.
Oh, and that building is still there in the background, right?
Yeah, and there's a better shot of that. That's called the casino, and one of the later views is of that, so we'll catch that.
And upper right, you could see. Yep.
Yep. Okay, and then this is labeled the visitors coming to the island, and you can see on the right where the steamer ship was pulled in on the pier, and in the shot is a fountain that is made of Catalina tile, which uses clay that they mine on the island, and they're very famous for making these tiles. And so on the trip, because of the Viewmaster and sort of realizing that this fountain had these tiles on it, we actually went out to the Catalina tile factory that's still on the island and still produces these hand-painted tiles, and you get to make your own tiles and stuff and paint them yourself. So I have those, and these are all the people coming in, and they were greeted each time the ship came in. And then the modern picture, which is the next one, I couldn't get the same elevation, and I realized that the Viewmaster photographer was taking the picture out of the hotel window, which I didn't have access to, so I couldn't go up as high. But the fountain is still there, the tiles are still there, and this is the missing pier. That's the steamer coming in on where the pier is no longer there. But they would have come through those buildings, and everybody would have greeted them on this right here where I'm standing. So I'm right where the photographer would have been, except I'm not in the hotel that he would have stayed in. So this is the beach, and this is literally where I just was, rotated to the right about 90 degrees. And there's not a lot of beach in Avalon on Catalina, but this is the beach from 1948 and the second pier, which is the one that's still there. And then if you switch to the modern one, this is the beach today, and I'm literally in the same place, and those two trees are still there. I don't know if they're the same ones because they'd be 70 years older, but there are still two palm trees exactly in the same place, and the pier is still there, and the green building at the end of the pier is still there, and it's still a fish and chip shop, which it was in 1948 as well. So that I found astonishing, that that detail just really hasn't changed. And we ate at that restaurant, because it was in the Viewmaster picture, and walked down the pier and just had the same experience. And if you go to the next one now, so this is the casino that we said, and it's not a gambling casino, it's more of a dance hall and movie theater. And in front of it, the building closer to us is the Yacht Club, which was in the movie Chinatown. So it was a filming location for the movie Chinatown. And this picture was taken from up the hillside some, and we had to find the right hidden staircase to go to get this elevation of the casino and the Yacht Club. And then this is the modern, and it's just exactly the same. And I was really lucky. It doesn't always work out that I can exactly find where these pictures were, but it took a lot of walking around to find these same locations. We watched a movie in the casino there and got a tour of behind the scenes and the dressing rooms for the theater and the projector room and the dance hall and so on. So that was really interesting. And I don't know, if it weren't for the Viewmasters, I'm not entirely sure we would have known to go out and investigate all this stuff. So now the last picture, this one really caught my interest because it's labeled the Penguins on Catalina. And Catalina is off the coast of Los Angeles and isn't the kind of place you would find penguins. So this took some research to find, and turns out there used to be a bird park, and this is the remnants of it. And you can see on these tiles pictures of parrots and different birds. All that is still there. And we found on that brochure, because it was from the 40s, we found it labeled Bird Park. Now there's no mention of it, except there is a street called Bird Park Lane. But because we had that old brochure, we knew where to go. And we took our golf cart and drove all the way back into the canyon and found the old bird park. And they have the booths where you paid your fee and you went in. And you can see this metal structure. This is the aviary and the booths in front of it. This is all still here. But now this aviary, this metal caged building that you see in this picture, is the playground for a kindergarten. And they've added a kindergarten into these buildings that used to be the bird park where the penguins were. And now the kids play in there, and they're all kind of they're literally caged in there. So you can't see in this picture, but I went around and there's like slides and playgrounds and so on. And I thought that was really interesting. And I wonder how many kids know that this cage that they're in for recess used to be where the penguins and all the birds flew around. And then in doing my research, that cage used to be the dance hall, which is on the promontory where the casino now is. But before, like in the teens and 20s, there was a small dance hall, and this steel structure was the dance floor. And they removed it to build the larger casino that's there now and put it over here. And the guy that turned it into a bird park was Wrigley, the guy who invented, the Wrigley's chewing gum. And he had like a summer home on the island and put a lot of money into this. And he built the bird park, and he built Wrigley Field in Chicago. But I think it's the Cubs that play there, they practice on Catalina Island, or they did, because he owned it, and he built the casino and so on. So we went to the museums that are there on town and got books on it and learned all this information about these places we'd been and things that I sort of half knew. So this one you're looking at now is a postcard that actually just luckily found in our hotel room. They'd blown it up and framed it on the wall, but it's actually just a postcard, and you can see the title is Bird Park. So I bought a bunch of postcards and books and things in Catalina, and then we headed home. And then on the trip, we thought, wow, that was really, really interesting. Maybe we could make a video about this, show the before picture and the after picture and where on the maps these things were and everything we'd learned and stuff. So I needed something to do because I'd retired. And I wanted to get back into video editing and video production. And I wanted to learn computer animation, which I didn't really have never done before. So when I got back, I just started digging into how to do that. and produced the first Viewmaster Travels video. And that was the beginning of the YouTube channel with the video on Catalina Island. And we sort of went into the map and where things were and the before picture and the now picture and the history. And then we just kept doing it. And we have since done about, I think I've completed 30 episodes over the last year and a half, 2 years. Traveled to, I've got a list here, traveled to all kinds of places. Boulder Dam, we went to the Grand Canyon, Mount Vernon, the Redwoods, DC, Florida, Silver Springs, Key West, Miami, the Timberline Lodge in Oregon, Hollywood, LA, Mount Lassen Volcanic Park, Santa Fe, New Mexico, Chicago, more places in Florida, San Jose, Solvang, California, which is near me, which was really interesting, Petrified Forest, Merrimack Caverns, Lincoln locations, Albuquerque, Las Vegas, and St. Louis. And we just pick a reel and hop in the car and go and make the video about it.
You know, there was nothing I could say because you did such a great job there. I was trying to say as small as I possibly could, full of questions. But, you know, I just want to start off by saying, see, you're an entrepreneur. That's why capitalism wins. You're an entrepreneur. Now you're giving back in such an unbelievably good way. I mean, it really, no, honestly, that's the heart. That's the root of good capitalism, man. You made your money. Now you're retired, and look what you're doing. Tremendous thing you're giving back. What an education I just got. You know.
Yeah, it's been really fascinating. The research. I will spend weeks and weeks now researching any given one of these topics, and some of them, like the one that struck me was Boulder City, Nevada, which is this tiny little town you drive up past on your way to the Hoover Dam. And there's a Viewmaster reel of it, and it's a really early reel, you know, they're numbered, and it's reel number 10.
Wow.
So it's one of the very first ones. Hoover Dam, which was Boulder Dam at the time, that's reel number 4. And then Boulder City is reel number 10. And I thought to myself, why did they go there and take pictures of this little town and nothing very interesting about it? So we were going to go to Hoover Dam to do the Viewmaster reel of that. And I'm like, well, we got to stop at Boulder City because I have to know why anybody would bother going there. So we got rooms in the hotel there and went to Boulder City and spent the weekend. And it's a little tiny town. And turns out what it is it's the government, the federalized government town they built for the workers who were building Hoover Dam. And it was the first city in the US created by the federal government. And because it was a federal project, it was really, really well documented. And every year they had to publish an annual report of every little detail that happened. So I got like into it for weeks, like the budget for cleaning the streets because it's too sandy in the desert, and you know the cows that were wandering in and how they had to deal with it, and everything related to it. And it got super, super fascinating. And so I made that video, and there were some really interesting parts. Like, for example, there was a strike at the Hoover Dam and the workers all quit. But so what they did was they said, well, you can't strike near the dam. It's not safe. So go outside city limits and strike over there. And then he built a gate and he just didn't let any of them back in. And then
I didn't think that was going to be the punchline.
And they said, well, you know, if you want to live here, you have to work here. You can't live here if you're not working on the dam. It's run by the government. You have no say in it. And it's the desert, you know. So that broke the strike because what are they going to do? And like, who knew?
Wow.
So I produced that video and I sent it to in the hotel we were in. There was a museum. And there is a museum, and that was some of my research. And I sent them the video, and I thanked them for their help, you know, finding some of the pictures. Because I went and I'm like, here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find this picture of this pharmacy on the street corner. And she's like, oh, I know where that is. That's the antique store over here. And, you know, she helped me. And now they show the video in the museum as part of the museum. And that was really satisfying. And every single one of these has been amazing like that, like just mind-blowing.
You know, I think what you did, like often when people are passionate about something they're doing, they just bumble into stuff, you know, and yeah. Because really what you did was, see, I would have gone out and I would have tried to shoot everything in 3D, which would have made this project impossible. okay, because it just takes too long. There's so many things that can go wrong, but you were on that perfect path. And really now you're due to spatial photography and all that kind of stuff, you could actually take the single shots you took. And so you weren't encumbered. See, that's the thing, because shooting 3D is problematic. I mean, you've got to get good at it. It takes a long time, and it's full of pitfalls. But what you do is perfect, because you have it in 3D when it was, and now you're telling that one story. You know, again, you bumbled into it, but it was perfect. What you did was like, it's perfect. You can't improve that. Now, did you ever think of shooting 3D? Oh, did you? How's it?
Yeah, I mean, I did after the fact. I mean, I wasn't really a 3D enthusiast. I mean, the Viewmasters were really neat, but technically, like you said, it was very difficult. But I do have it in the back of my head, because you can produce your own Viewmaster reels. There's a company, they'll print them for you. And I thought, oh, it would be neat to do a before and after in 3D, and maybe even get permission to use the original Viewmaster images and then the current ones, and do a set of reels of before and afters in 3D as actual Viewmaster reels. So that would be neat. But you're gilding a lily. You know, you perfect. What you got? Because really, it's nice to be able to see a 2D image, and you have to hold it. You're looking at this nice 2D image, and then you go back in time and look at it. I just think it's, again, happy accidents. I live for them. I live for those. Yeah.
I literally, and what you pursued there. Now, finding where do you? Let me speak of it. Where are all these reels at this point? You buy them, or you sell them back, or what do you do?
No, I've still got them. Yeah, the database originally was just my own reference. Like, if I'm out and about and I want to know if I have it, I just use the database to look up if I already had one or not. And the other thing that Viewmaster did, or Sawyer's did, was they took a lot of pictures of a place, and then they published 7. And then the next time they had to print the reel, they might not publish the same 7.
Oh,
so
interesting.
Catalina Island or any of these, there might be 5 or 6 varieties with different pictures, and I'm trying to collect all of them. So I needed the image reference to go, okay, this one is different. Oh, I need that one. So then I could collect it as a difference. That's kind of all that really was. So I have all the reels downstairs in library drawers, like the old card catalog drawers. And you use the database, it gives you the reel ID number, and then they're all labeled, and they're in numerically, or down there, and you can go get them and look at them in 3D with the viewer or the projector or whatever.
I don't think we were clear on this too, but you're writing in all of the descriptions.
Yes, that was the first task, was writing in all the descriptions, which really helped if you wanted to search for automobile or waterfall or whatever. You get every reel with a photo of a waterfall or whatever, which I don't think there was a way to do before. Like some of the other lists, you can't just search for what's in the pictures. And so that's what I did first. And I'll tell you, there's a set of, I think, 15 reels of mushrooms, because the guy that invented Viewmasters was very into horticulture and stuff, and he documented mushrooms in 3D, and they all have Latin names. So there's like 15 times 7 sets of text. It's entirely in Latin, and that was a challenge to type all that in. But some of these are easier than others. But yeah, all the text is in there, and then all the images are in there, including like the fiction reels, like Tom and Jerry and Ghostbusters and whatever. All those are in there too, and there's hundreds.
You put
and
them in there
hundreds of those.
too. Okay.
Yeah, all of them. Yeah, not just the travelogue ones, including some personal reels, because you could take your own Viewmaster images with your own camera. I have 10 or 20 or 30 of those, and those are in there as well. So on the database online, you can see all that, and all the cartoons and Disney stuff and whatever.
Now, your background, your companies, did they design databases? Is that what you did? Or?
Yeah, one of them eventually did. The first couple companies, it was computer software related to the call center industry. But the last company I had, yeah, we ran large scale databases. So I had an interest in that, and writing software to interface with databases was exactly what I had been doing. So that was relatively easy, for me.
So you combine kind of pleasure with pleasure, because you're passionate around what you do.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. And writing some of the software to make some of the games that I have online. So there's a quiz to, like, you guess the Viewmaster pictures and stuff. That all was really fun to write,
What a Class A mischief maker you are, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it's been really, really fun. I'm gonna take these out because it's dying, and hopefully that switches.
Test 1, 2, you can still hear us.
Okay, here we go.
I guess you got tired of hearing me. I don't blame
Yeah.
you. It makes sense to me. But what we're going to do is we're going to have questions. Like other folks have questions. I'm going to let them ask you those questions because I'm hogging it.
Yeah, no problem.
But after, just one last question. But no,
Okay.
so after shooting, had you any interest in shooting 3D? Did this create?
Yeah, you know, on the camera I used, I saw online they came out with a 3D lens attachment for it, which I think is part of this whole spatial video thing that's going on. And we did look at that. I'm like, that would be easy. It's just the lens for the SLR camera that attaches, and there's 2 lenses on it, and I think it takes 2 images.
Yeah, those are the beam split. But you know what?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not telling you what to do because, man, anybody who ever listens to what is in trouble. But nonetheless, I'll put my 2 cents in. What you did is perfect. I like I said, I think having that, because it's really hard to get out to it. Like, you know, try it. If there's anything in the way, you don't even notice it until you shot it. You know, there's a lot of problems with doing that, and you already have the history of 3D. I think it just may encumber you, but you do whatever what you want because, man,
yeah, I did find like on YouTube, you know, the bulk of the audience wouldn't know what to do with it when it came up.
That's right. That's the other problem. You got to educate them on how to do it. You know what I'll do too. Everybody else, plug your ears. You know, I'll send you one of these, which I shot with my friend. I shot this with my friend Sheldon Aronowitz, my great friend passed away, but
yeah, the great Sheldon. His collection is famous.
Yeah, Sheldon and I shot these. So any questions you have about that, I can actually give you right from the horse's mouth, as it turns out. I'd be more than happy to do that for you. I commend you on this phenomenal project. So now what we're going to do is that I told you how this goes, and I hope you had fun. So there's that.
I love it, New York. Now isn't it a pity what they say about New York?